The Brewhouse was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery. But the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewhouse.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Our pleasure to have Dan Moriarty, former talk show host of WHAM, back with us, and a newlywed.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
You're into it a month. How's it going so far?
So far, so great.
It's nice.
It's tough to screw it up after a month.
It's nice you wore a suit from the wedding to the show today.
Actually, I went gray during the wedding.
Wow.
Nice fall color.
Wow.
Yeah.
All righty. Mike Catalana co-hosting along with Pat Duffy. What are you wearing today?
Quarterbacks After Kelly today in honor of his return to the cap, as we're calling it, E.J. Manuel. So
Very good.
he'll be on the sidelines for Oakland.
Great memories there. You know, speaking of NFL quarterbacks, it occurs to me, as we look at the results and the standings in the NFL, the things are changing as far as quarterbacks. Case Keenum is winning in Minnesota. The Steelers are winning behind. They're running. In the one game in the last four that Le'Veon Bell didn't carry 30 times, they got routed because Roethlisberger gets picked off. Trubisky wins the game where he throws 7 passes. You know, Jacksonville doesn't pass the ball. Is this changing? Is this no longer becoming necessarily a quarterback league, Danny?
I think it's still the easiest and the best way to win consistently is with a quarterback. I mean, you know that. You've had Tom Brady as your quarterback for almost 2 decades now, and they've been consistently good. So if you've got good quarterback play, that's the easiest way to win. But if you've got a really good defense and you've got a really good running game, we've seen Seattle do this, and I know Russell Wilson doesn't turn the ball over, and he's a really solid quarterback and has played elite quarterbacking at times as well. But with really good defense and a really good running game, I mean, you can control the clock and control the game. So that is another way to win, but it is easier to win when you got a great quarterback.
But a couple years ago, it was like, you can't win without a quarterback.
You can't win without a quarterback. It hasn't changed one iota. Those guys, like the Bills, can win games and be competitive and maybe make the playoffs. They ain't winning big, and Pittsburgh's not winning big unless it's Ben Roethlisberger making big plays for them. The best teams or the up-and-coming teams all have quarterbacks. You are not winning big without the guy making plays at quarterback. It's just not going to happen, and I don't think it's changed at all. And as I said to you before, there's a whole other wave of guys, including the guy the Bills are going to see this week, who have an opportunity to become really, really good in this league, and that's the difference between teams trying to win games and win big.
The proof that you can't win consistently lies in this Bills victory on Sunday. So they were down 7 points with 2.5 minutes left. They hadn't won a game down 7 points with 2.5 minutes left since 1994. The year you could argue Jim Kelly had his last legitimate NFL superstar year. Listen, like Mike said, you can stay consistent, but for that 7-play, 80-whatever-yard drive that stalls you get a field goal for, you're 13 seconds away on the other side from a good quarterback doing exactly what you just did. You could fight the whole game, own the whole game, maintain the whole game, and they win with a couple of passes. You can't win without a quarterback.
Still, you're finding other ways to do it, though. I mean, the Bills are 4-2.
You can win. You can win games. I'm talking about what are you going to win? What is the difference in your team? Look at even Houston this year, right? They have gotten by with very good defense and average to poor quarterback play the last few years. Aren't you scared to death if you're any team in the league in a game with that defense, even with their injuries, and that kid at quarterback who has shown the ability, maybe he won't be consistent all the time, but has shown the ability to play way up? I think it's what makes Oakland still a dangerous team. I think it's what makes the teams that have those guys still the most dangerous teams to win big. It's hard to win. Look at the Bills. They grind out wins, and McDermott has done a great job, and Tyrod last week was the good Tyrod. It's hard to win multiple games and win big in the playoffs if you don't have.
Do you dismiss those teams then?
No, I don't think
Minnesota,
you can dismiss
Jacksonville,
them. No.
Pittsburgh.
Well, you don't dismiss those teams? Of course you dismiss Minnesota and Jacksonville.
Well, I mean, dismiss them from what? Winning?
Championship caliber.
No, I don't think they're winning championships.
But
They still have
Pittsburgh,
Roethlisberger.
yes.
But Ben's not the one that's been
he's
responsible.
been-
Not
the guy.
right now, but he can be. And they've still got Antonio Brown. I know Martavius Bryant's having his issues right now, but he's a mega talent. And Juju Smith-Schuster's fit in there perfectly. They've got their weapons on the outside. They just know that Le'Veon Bell is a freak. He's the best running back in the game right now, and that's where their bread is buttered.
Did you just say championship and Jacksonville in the same sentence?
But they're a first-place team.
I'm
just saying, you're
Don
halfway.
Marone is the coach.
Hey,
Blake Bortles is their quarterback. Get out of my
And that's
face.
what I mean. They got a winning record with Blake Bortles, a quarterback, and
They-
Marone
the Bills
says
have- the Bills
he doesn't
have-
want to use him.
Well, Marone says stuff like that. He's going to need. He had a big game out of him last week, especially in the first half. It's like if you play golf. Tyrod is more par a couple holes, bogey a few, and play nice and consistent, and you have a nice round. Jameis is birdies and double bogeys. Man, he can get after it, and he can do things poorly.
But the Tyrods
it really is.
win tournaments.
Win games, but is there a guy who can win big? Get on a roll and win.
This is the Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brew House. We talk Bills next. The Press Box, brought to you in part by Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. Call 262-COMP, today. Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. We talk Buffalo Bills, brought to you by Connors and Ferris. Mike, we got Oakland coming into town this week. Buffalo's a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I think this game is monumental to the Bills, both in the present and at the end of the year. I was saying about the Tampa game, huge to get a win, but at the end of the year, when you look at what they've done, it's an NFC team, so it doesn't, quote, count as much. But in the present, it got you to 4-2. This game is big in every way. This game is, Oakland is going to be a team that maybe you are fighting with for a playoff. We can say it, right? For a playoff
You
spot.
jinxed us 2 weeks ago, Mike.
I know,
Keep
but
talking.
you could be fighting with. So if you look back, they were 4-2 last year and lost 3 in a row. And funny, I'm in the locker room after the game, and I say to Preston Brown, "Hey, you were 4-2 last year." He goes, "We were?" He didn't even remember. He goes, "Oh, no, everything is different." This is the game that makes you different. Oakland woke up in that last game, but unfortunately for them, that was sort of an aberration to the way their season has gone. They took off. I still think they're good. But I think them coming east in this game, 1 o'clock, I'm going to take the Bills to win it. I've got the Bills to win it 24-20 on
I
Sunday.
heard an us come out of you as far as the Buffalo Bills go.
Hello, how many jerseys do I have to wear before I can say us? No, here's what scares me about this Oakland team is exactly what we just talked about. At any moment, Derek Carr can click it on, and everyone's making this big deal about Marshawn Lynch not playing. Marshawn Lynch has done nothing. In fact, the offense looked better without Marshawn Lynch after he was booted from that game against Kansas City. I'm with Mike on a West Coast team traveling east. That being said, if the Bills are going to win this, it's going to be tight, point or two. So I'm taking the Bills to win, but I think the Raiders cover on Sunday.
The travel thing, is that negated at all by the fact that they had a few extra days having played Thursday?
Maybe. It depends on how a team is. I still think it's somewhat of an adjustment to them body clock-wise because it is different. When an East Coast team goes out west, it's basically a 1 o'clock Eastern time start. I think the feel is a little bit different, but when they come east, and Oakland does not have a good history with doing this, so again, it's a minor little thing, but I think it helps the Bills a little
Danny,
bit.
what do you think?
I think that's what you almost have to bank on because with the way Oakland looked last week, if that's the team that they see in Buffalo coming up on Sunday, I think the Bills are in trouble because, well, we'll see who's able to play for Buffalo. If Jordan Poyer is out, if E.J. Gaines is out, Derek Carr could light that Bills secondary up. Amari Cooper had a horrible start to the season. He is a mega talent, and he finally got it figured out last weekend. So with him and Crabtree on the outside, a guy like Jared Cook who can beat you down the seam, they've got all sorts of weapons. Buffalo needs their secondary to be healthy. They're already kind of thin back there, so if they don't have a couple of those guys, I think it could be trouble for Buffalo.
All right, pick the game and find another one for us.
I think Oakland comes into Buffalo and wins. And the other game I'm going to go with is your New England Patriots. I know the number's big. I know they struggled at home earlier in the season, but they've figured things out since Stephon Gilmore's gone down.
What do you got?
Well, like I said, I have the Bills to win and to cover very barely in this game. And this is an odd one, but I'm going to take Detroit getting the points at home against Pittsburgh. The Steelers, again, look like there's a lot of dysfunction there. There really is. It is an odd bunch. Talented, they can get things going, but something's a little off. And Detroit has been down. I think Detroit bounces back this week. Maybe have a shot to win it outright.
All right, I'm 3-11 against the point. So and picking against Buffalo every week. So doing my part, I will continue to pick against Buffalo. I'll take Oakland. I like Atlanta on the road at the Jets. They're given 3.5. It's not so much. What do you got? Wrap it up for us.
I'm going to go with New Orleans getting 9 points against the Chicago Bears. New Orleans defense is too bad to hold a 9-point lead. Not to mention, this could be the hope game for Mitch Trubisky and the Chicago Bears. Bills fans know all about quarterback hope games. This is the game where Mitch Trubisky looks like an NFL quarterback because he plays a terrible defense. Bears cover. By the way, who's in first place right now?
Classy Wolf Media is donating $500 to Hunter's Hope in the name of our Connors and Ferris Pick the Winner contest. Pat Duffy is our leader. This is the Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brewhouse, and our Buffalo Bills segment was brought to you by Connors and Ferris. Like It or Not is next. Welcome back. This is the Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Like it or not, Danny, the 2018 New York Yankees.
Well, there's plenty of reason to be excited, obviously. This year to me was all gravy. I didn't expect any of this. I thought the Yankees would be maybe a little bit above 500. So for them to get a little taste of the postseason, a little taste of success in the postseason, and in the way that it ended, I think that this is all motivation for these guys going into next year. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with some of these free agents. Do they bring CeCe Sabathia back? Does Tanaka opt out? Todd Frazier, what do they do with him? Do they think Gleyber Torres is going to be ready to play next year? So I'm interested to see how they piece this thing together, but they've got a lot of young talent. Some of the young talent is still down in the minor leagues, and so over the next few seasons, there's plenty of reasons to be excited if you're a Yankee fan.
I thought from the trading deadline, they were as good as any team in the American League.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so, but, I mean, listen, as a Blue Jays fan, as a lifelong Yankee hater, I'm praying to God that this was the year of hope for the Yankees, and now they have a couple more years of terrible mistakes and overpaying on a free agent that misses, so I get to go back to watching and laughing at Yankees fans.
Alrighty. Michael, I like that. Like it or not, the aftermath of Jenna getting run over in the football game.
Yeah, well, I think mostly everybody has seen Jenna Cottrell works for us, was on the sideline shooting the game, and on the Trey White trying to stop Mike Evans' touchdown late in the game, Jenna got wiped out. Now, the good news is she was fine. The aftermath is she's gotten a lot of attention for this all over the place, ESPN, Fox Sports, articles in the newspaper and everything, because part of it is she held on to the camera, which everybody got a kick out of. And a lot of people know Jenna's backstory. She went through Hodgkin's lymphoma, went through her treatments. She's doing great. So she joked saying, hey, you know, I dealt with cancer and I dealt with Mike Evans. I wouldn't recommend dealing with either one, but it worked out. But she's done really well, and she's not shooting the game this week, but has nothing to do with that. Just on the schedule, Toby's going to be back on the sidelines, And but Jenna's doing great, and the aftermath is she got a little extra attention, and she deserves it.
I'm just amazed at once it was established she was okay, how out of control publicity-wise this gets. You must have had her on, right?
No. Well, I didn't want to. What are you? Hey, you okay? Great. Have a good rest of the day. No, but it was funny. Like I was at the game. Like I was there, and it happened right in front of my seats. And the touchdown happens, and I just saw this like waft of hair, blonde hair. I'm like, the heck was that? And I didn't realize until like minutes later it was Jenna that got run over.
And when I saw her right after the game, I said to her, "We're really happy you're okay. And by the way, the video is just spectacular for flying in the air."
Are
and
you
it
acting
was
as her agent?
Well, it's funny that there have been a lot of things, and I said, just embrace this a little bit. First of all, you are doing your job, and in the context of what she's been through, to a lot of people, it's kind of like, hey, you're right back out there and doing it. And I don't want to hear any male or female thing, because anybody on the sidelines, you get hit by an NFL player, I don't care who you are, you could get seriously hurt. And we've been lucky with our people, and certainly in general in Orchard Park, to not have anybody get seriously hurt, but you could. So you got to be aware. But like in life with her, sometimes things come up a little faster, and you got to be ready to deal with it, and she did.
No, she's the greatest.
Yeah.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Unfinished Business is next.
One by one, the donuts came. They brought their fiercest party game. But under the moon, they met their doom far too soon. Get your spooky donuts or 10 munchkins for $1.99 at Dunkin'.
America runs on Dunkin'.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Time for Unfinished Business, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Pat.
So last Friday, my brother got married. Congratulations, Ryan and Kristen, by the way. But it was a Friday night, last Friday. Big sports night. Sabres were on. I never miss a Sabres game. And it was Yankees-Astros Game 6. Problem was, reception started at 6:30. And there's no TV in the reception hall at the Airport Marriott out there in Greece. So there's one television in the lobby. And I kept sneaking out trying to catch things. And my wife would catch me catching things and yelling at me for doing this. Here's what I don't understand. Why are there places where I'm not allowed to enjoy sports? It's a 4-hour-long reception. Me sneaking away for a second isn't that big a deal. Friend of mine got in trouble at a buddy's daughter's baptism on a Sunday during football season for glancing at Twitter and checking his fantasy football squad. I don't understand what the big deal with that is either. Sports consumes everything we do as men and women in America, right? That's why the NFL is a billion-dollar industry. I don't want to hear anybody tell me there's not a place where I can't enjoy a sporting event, because in my personal opinion, and I think you guys agree with me, sports is now more real life than real life actually is. I want to watch the Sabres game. Congratulations, Ryan. I'll be back in there to have a beer with you in a second.
Well, the wedding, right? We had the Penn State football game on the inside, and people were openly encouraged to go watch it.
There were people going in there. Although, I picked that weekend specifically. It was Penn State, Georgia State, with the idea that game was going to be at noon.
You looked first.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We scheduled the wedding around Penn State football, knowing who the guest list was going to be and how distracted they were going to be.
I think he has a chance. He can make this thing work. Go ahead, Danny.
Duffy, you're going to love this. Can Doug Marrone coach? I don't know. Duffy doesn't know. I think he thinks he knows.
He can.
But we're about to find out. He is in a perfect situation. When you look at where Doug Marrone is and where he's been, 500 coach at Syracuse, which actually, considering Syracuse's program, pretty solid. Around a 500 record with the Buffalo Bills, considering what they've been through over the last 17 years, pretty solid. Now he's down in Jacksonville in a division that doesn't have a New England Patriots type team who has owned that division for years. Now, Houston looks like they have something cooking with Deshaun Watson as their quarterback and a really good defense. But we'll have to wait and see there. But this isn't a division that's owned by a top team. He has Tom Coughlin, a guy who he's comfortable with, who's in charge running that franchise. Doug Marrone kind of gets to be Doug Marrone down in Jacksonville. He got irritated with the Buffalo media. He had trust issues with the Bills media and some of the Bills management as well. He doesn't have any of that down in Jacksonville. It'll be interesting to see what he does over the next couple of seasons. If it doesn't work out in Jacksonville, Doug Marone's got no excuses.
When's it safe not to hate this guy anymore for what he did when he left Buffalo?
He's a weird dude. I mean, I think he'd admit that, and he's really tough to root for. But it'll be interesting to see what he does down in Jacksonville with Tom Coughlin and in that division. And that defensive line is nasty.
Remember that tough Buffalo Bills media? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's part of what we were trying to do at that time. All right, in the NFL, we do tend to focus on the big guys and the big names, and it's a lot of times the quarterbacks and all. But I want to focus on a couple of guys who may have played their last game in the NFL. One is Joe Thomas, an unbelievable player if you think about it. The poor guy has spent his entire career with the Browns, who over the last 17 years have really made the Bills almost look successful. And the guy never missed a snap, not a snap in his entire time. Well, now he's had an injury that he's going to be done for the season, and he has to decide, does he even want to come back at his career? Playing that left tackle spot, sometimes some glory. You can make the Pro Bowl and all, but most of the time, people only notice you if you get a penalty or you give up a sack. And then I watched the Monday night game with the Eagles, and it's a former Bill, Jason Peters, who has had a phenomenal career, maybe going to make the Hall of Fame, and he gets injured, and he's 35 years old, and it's a serious knee injury, done for the year, maybe done for his career. And as he's getting carted off, he's yelling instructions to the guy who's going to replace him because he's become that guy as an elder statesman with the Eagles. And I just think about these guys, tough, hard-nosed, staying on the field, doing their best for their team. Not a lot of glory. They get paid, but not a lot of glory when it's on the field. And I think the NFL needs guys like that, guys who come and play and play and play, and they're both going to be missed now, and hopefully they both get honored in the future.
And in the locker room, aren't the offensive linemen some of the most engaging people, too, that you meet?
Yeah, and usually with a guy like Peters, I mean, when he was with the Bills, he was a younger guy. They didn't want to pay him. He wanted out the door. They ended up trading and getting a pick, and it ended up being Eric Wood. So it ended up being a really good pick. But it's not a left tackle, and it's not a guy who's been there for 15 years. And he became a guy that the players, any position, sort of went to in his later time with the team. Never won a playoff game. Same with Joe Thomas. Neither will get a chance now. That's a shame, but hopefully they get honored by you.
Unfinished Business brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Danny, nice to have you back.
Good to be back.
Guys, thanks.
Thank
Nice
you.
job. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.